Good afternoon, and welcome to day 25 of Practical English for Finance and Banking. Today we're going to be looking at Unit 4 from the textbook, which deals with credit and debit cards. So let's get into it. This is what the page looks like. Let's start at the top here, of course, with Section A, EPOS and EFTPOS. EPOS and EFTPOS. EPOS, electronic point of sale. The point of sale means the place where the sale or the transaction takes place. At the merchant, at the store, at the restaurant, at the gas station. That's EPOS, an electronic point of sale terminal. It's not at some other location. It's not at the bank or at the credit card processing center, but the point of sale terminal is at the actual merchant, the store, restaurant, shop, gas station, whatever it is. So EPOS terminals are cash. Well, what would it be? A cash machine, that's like an ATM. So these are not cash machines, but they are cash registers. Like a cash register at McDonald's or a coffee shop or a gas station. That's the machine that where they input how much your purchase is, and then you make your payment. A really good example of those, also like a convenience store, when they ring up your purchase, when they scan your items, or at a grocery store, Home Plus or E-Mart, where they take each item and scan it, and it adds up all the prices, taxes, calculates the total, and then you make your payment. That's a excuse me, that's a cash register, that machine that does that. Because, of course, they accept credit cards, but they also have a cash drawer where they keep money to make change. In the old days, really not that many years ago, there were no credit cards. So these machines only accepted cash, or only were used for cash transactions, and then after that, checks, and then eventually credit cards and debit cards. But really, in history, those are a fairly new thing. They're older than you guys. They have been around for quite a few years, but they're really not that old as far as accepting credit cards and everything everywhere. So these are cash registers found in the places where you buy things, are called retail outlets. Retail is basically the opposite, or not exactly the opposite. Retail rather than wholesale. A wholesale would be like when you buy it directly from the factory, the manufacturer. The manufacturer ships it to the retail stores, to the convenience stores, the coffee shops, to the department stores, to the grocery stores. Those are retail outlets. Those are the stores where normal people can go and purchase things in regular quantities. Okay? That's why stores like, for example, at Costco, that is a wholesale club, because things there are generally in larger quantities. Things aren't really packaged for individual sale. You cannot go there and buy a can of coffee. you have to buy, a box, at least a 6-pack or a 12-pack of coffee. It's not a retail store like a convenience store where you can go and you can buy just a single item, a single can of coffee, or something like that. So there's a difference there. Okay, so EPOS terminals are cash registers found in retail outlets such as shops and restaurants. Data, information, data about each sale is entered via barcode scanners. Entered. That's when they scan the purchase. Okay, they scan the little barcode on the item. Let me grab something here real quick. So if you look at an item like this is just some milk tea. On the back of it, or on the side, it's disappearing, you will see the barcode, okay? That is, oh, there we go, that's the barcode that they're talking about, and that's what the machine reads. And now, basically, everything you buy has a barcode on it, okay? And again, those haven't been around forever. When I was growing up, they didn't use those. Each item in the grocery store had a little sticker on top with the price on it. And they would actually, literally, go around with a little machine, a little handheld machine with paper stickers in it, and it would print. It had like a rubber stamp kind of thing in it, and it would literally stamp the price on every single item. Or some places, some shops, I think they had a machine. It would actually use like blue ink or purple ink, and it would actually just print the price directly on the item. For some items, they could do that, like say like a can of soup, because it would have like a flat top, a metal top with no writing on the top of the can, so they could put the price directly on there. So very different system now. And again, that was not that many years ago that changed. But now basically everything has a barcode on it. So data about each sale is entered via, what does that mean? Via, you could say, by way of, okay? Via, that's the way it is done, is entered via barcode scanners, keyboards, or touchscreens, okay? And of course, touchscreens, again, are everywhere now. Restaurants, a lot of places you have to order with a touch screen. The data is used to provide an itemized, it shows every single item, every individual item, an itemized receipt for the customer. Itemized there is, of course, the British spelling. In American English, it is spelled with a Z. Okay, that would be this is the US spelling. Itemized. The data is used to provide an itemized receipt for the customer. It can also be used for stock control and to help with marketing. Stock control, basically, they're talking about inventory. And they talk about this where the idea is that if you go to the grocery store and you buy a box of cereal, that goes into the computer system and basically says to the ordering manager, oh, we need to restock the cereal, we need to order another box of cereal because we have just sold one. Because they keep a certain number in their inventory, a certain number on the shelf, and maybe some extras in the stock room in the back. So you buy one, they order one. You buy a pizza, they order another pizza. And I know that there are stores that use this system where it's like an automatic ordering inventory system. I don't think it's used that widely. At least, at least if it was used well, stores wouldn't run out of things. They would restock more quickly. I've seen stores back home, especially, where it seems like they're always out of items and it takes them a really long time to restock. So it seems like even though they have these electronic systems and the electronic data, it seems like they don't really use it effectively. Okay. So it can be used for stock control, and I'm sure some places do, and to help with marketing. And the marketing would be like the targeted ads. They know who you are. They know that you purchased these items on this date, and you know that you purchased this combination of items. You paid with your credit card. They may also have your phone number. So what some of these stores are able to do now is, as you go through the grocery store, they might say, oh, you bought Kellogg's Frosted Flakes last time you were here. Today, why don't you try the store brand of Frosted Flakes? So they use that because they know what your interests are, they know what your buying habits are, so they're able to do very detailed, targeted advertisements specifically for you based on your previous purchases, your purchase history. All right. EFT POS. So here it was EPOS. This is EFT POS. Electronic funds transfer, point of sale terminals, are similar to EPOS terminals, but they can also read credit and debit cards. And I would say most places now have machines that do this. It may be a little separate box, but again, most places take credit and debit cards. Not everywhere, of course, but most places do now. So these EFT POS terminals are similar to EPOS terminals, but they can also read credit and debit cards and transfer funds directly from the customer's account to the retailer's account. So this would be with in what situation would they transfer funds directly from the customer's account to the retailer's account? In what situation is this immediate transfer of money made? That, of course, if the funds are transferred directly from your account to eMart's account, that, of course, would be a debit card. Okay, it's basically like a cash transfer. When customers pay, you could say with a credit card, or if we're just going to have the word card here, when customers pay by card at an EFT POS terminal, they either sign or signature. We need a verb. They either sign, that's the verb, they either sign with their signature. They either sign a sales voucher, that's the the receipt or the piece of paper with the total on it and a signature line. Now, of course, a lot of that is done via touchscreens. They either sign a sales voucher or enter a PIN. Of course, PIN, we pronounce it like a word, stands for Personal Identification Number. Personal Identification Number. Obviously, a PIN is more secure. We're talking about security here. A PIN is a more secure method of verification than a signature. And if you think about that, that's really true, especially with these little touch screens for credit cards. How do you sign your name? How does everybody sign their name? Most people on those machines, if you try to actually sign your name like you normally would with pen, it doesn't work. It looks like garbage. It doesn't even look like your signature. So now a lot of people just go, they just make a little wavy line. And I've been, especially like convenience stores, usually they don't even give you the chance to sign your own name. They just take their finger and just across the screen. They just make a line, which of course is not a signature. Those, of course, like at a convenience store, those are generally pretty small purchases. So I guess they figure that the risk isn't great. But if there was a question about that charge, you could argue and say, look, that's not my signature. That's not how I sign. So they are taking some risk by doing that. But again, at a convenience store, it's, I would say, minimal risk because it's usually a pretty small purchase. And in many countries, all EFT POS transactions or sellings, all EFT POS transactions are now verified by PIN. So, and that varies by country, from country to country. Even now, that's not a standard thing. And of course, in some places, it depends on how large the purchase is. If it's under 30,000 won or under 50,000 won, there's no signature even required. And I think the PIN number would only be for a debit card. The credit cards, I've never had to enter a PIN number for a credit card. Unless you're making a cash withdrawal at an ATM, which is different than what they're talking about here. Okay, so that is the top section there, part A. And then the bottom part talks about chip and PIN payments. The chip, that's the little electronic chip, that little shiny metal part in your credit card. And PIN, of course, is the personal identification number payments. So we just need to put these in the correct order, okay? And these are the steps that happen when you use your card to make a payment. So they're talking here, they've given us number one. The customer arrives at a supermarket checkout. So you're at the grocery store and you're buying some food and drinks and eggs and bread and potatoes and tomatoes and bananas. You're at the supermarket checkout. So that's step one, okay? What happens next? If you have not done these exercises yet, please pause the video now. Do this on your own, and then you can come back and verify your answers. So that was step one. You arrive at the checkout counter, and then the cashier scans the barcodes on the products. So that's when they just run them across the scanner, and you hear the little beep, 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 as each item is scanned. So that's number 2. Then, when everything is added up, the customer inserts her or his card into the chip and pin keypad. That's the little card reader. You insert your card, and then the card's electronic chip is read, and you enter your PIN. Okay. Again, I normally use credit cards. I rarely use a debit card, so I don't know if I've ever actually done this at a store. Then the PIN is verified. It's checked electronically to make sure that it is correct, and then the payment is authorized. Okay, they get approval for it. And again, just to point this out, the American spelling here, authorized with a Z. Okay. Next step here, funds are transferred from the customer's account to the retailer's account. And like I mentioned in the previous section, that would be for a debit card. Funds, money. Funds are transferred from the customer's account to the retailer's account. And that is basically immediately, or nowadays like instantaneously, because the internet is so fast and these transactions happen almost immediately. And of course, the only one left here is the transaction would appear on your bank statement. Because this is a debit card, it's coming directly from your checking account. Okay, so let us take a look at the second page here. They talk about mag stripes and chip cards. Mag stripes and chip cards. And so we have some words to write in the spaces. We have encrypted, erased, expiry, guarantee, magnetic, microprocessor, and swipes. So the stripe on the back of a credit card, that black line that goes across, that black stripe or strip, the stripe on the back of a credit card is a magnetic strip. And they kind of use these two words interchangeably, stripe and strip. The stripe is a magnetic strip. They pretty much use those, they interchange them. They are used, those two terms are pretty much used interchangeably. I guess I spelled that right. Interchangeably. You could use either word. Magnetic strip, magnetic stripe. I don't think it really matters. Often called a mag stripe. Mag stripe, of course, short for magnetic stripe. And notice here mag stripe, and here they say magnetic strip. So I don't think it really matters. ATMs and EFT POS terminals can read the information stored on the strip, that magnetic black line. If a card can't be read, it is usually because the mag stripe is scratched. And I'm sure you've seen that if you carry it in your pocket or your wallet, eventually that stripe will get scratched. If it's scratched badly enough, it becomes impossible for machines or anybody to read it. So they can't use your credit card. They can't accept your credit card. And I've seen that before where people, carry it in their pocket or in a wallet that's just too tight and it gets damaged. So it could be because the mag stripe is scratched or has been erased, usually from being placed close to a strong magnet. So if you have a credit card and it's stored close to a magnet, the magnet itself can actually pull the data off of the credit card and erase it. I've never had that problem with an actual credit card, but I'm sure you know, like a lot of hotels use magnetic room keys. It looks like a little credit card um, that contains the information, the room number, and the date of checkout for a hotel. I have had the situation where I had one of those in like a little magnetic money clip, like a little leather coated thing with magnets inside to hold money or credit cards in place. I've had a few times where I had my hotel room card inside the magnetic money clip and it erased it. So when I got back to the hotel, I couldn't open my room. I couldn't unlock my door because the magnetic strip on the room key had been erased. I'm guessing that like the ones for the room keys, they change those frequently, sometimes every day. But of course, credit cards are supposed to, last at least for a year, 2 years, sometimes even longer. I'm guessing that the encryption or the strength of the magnetic, the charge they use, is probably much stronger than what they use for hotel room keys. I'm not positive of that, but that's my guess. Okay, when the cashier, they do something to a credit card through the card reader, when they slide it through there, when they swipe. When the cashier swipes a credit card or debit card through the card reader of an EFT POS, so that's a little different. Some you insert the card, others you slide it through. That slide is called a swipe. So you can swipe it. When the cashier swipes the credit card, the terminal is connected by telephone to a company which takes credit authentication requests from retailers and provides them with payment guarantees. This is a little outdated for most places. Now they're not connected by telephone. They are actually connected by the internet. They're online, so it's faster, it's more secure. So they're connected by internet, via the internet, to a company which takes credit authentication requests and provides the retailer with payment guarantees. Basically, they give them an authorization, a credit card authorization. And they would get a credit card authorization number, which you will see that printed on your receipt a lot of times. A credit card authorization number. And it's a code of numbers, maybe a combination of numbers and letters. An authorization. Because when they run your credit card, that's what we call it when you check the credit card. When they run your card, it will either be approved or declined. Okay? Now, interesting story here. I worked for many years in hotels and restaurants. And especially at the hotels, we would actually have to sometimes pick up an actual telephone and call the credit card company to get an authorization for a charge. Because sometimes we had a little machine, but sometimes it wouldn't accept them or it would decline. Sometimes that meant that the card had been reported as lost or stolen. Sometimes it was just over the limit, or sometimes the credit card company suspected that it was not an authorized transaction. They suspected fraud. Okay. So there were lots of reasons why you might have to do that. But there were many times when I would be calling up American Express or Visa to try to get an authorization number for a credit card. When one of these companies receives a request, it checks for retailer identification. So every retailer, every store, restaurant, coffee shop, hotel has an identification number that identifies the merchant, the retailer. Valid card number, of course, has to have all the right digits and in the correct format, and the card expiry date. In the UK, they would say expiry. In the US, we would always just say the expiration date. Whether it's on a credit card or milk at the grocery store, we would call it the expiration date. This information is encrypted for security reasons. Encrypted, of course, means it's like scrambled, mixed up, so that other people cannot intercept it. They can't, as you're sending it, they can't grab it, the information, the data, and use it for anything. It's encrypted. Similarly, in sort of the same way, when a card is inserted into an ATM, the ATM is linked to the bank's central computer over an encrypted connection. And of course, again, now that would almost always be through the internet. Well, maybe not. I'm remembering a couple of years ago, there was a fire in Seoul at an SK, I think it was SK, building. The fire was like in the basement or underground, like underground cables. And I know that it affected cell phone service and internet service. So I remember that in parts of Seoul, the companies, the businesses in those areas that used SK for handling their transactions, their credit card authorizations, and everything, they were not able to accept credit cards during that time. It was several hours, I think, because they couldn't authorize them. They couldn't get approval for the cards. They couldn't do the transactions. So people had to pay cash. And of course, these days, a lot of people really don't carry cash, or they might carry just a tiny amount. So it was, I remember reading about it, it was kind of chaotic in Seoul that day because phone service, internet service, I think ATMs even, and I know like credit card machines at stores were not working. Okay, chip cards, also known as smart cards, offer greater security and versatility than magstripe only credit and debit cards. And I'm pretty certain that in Korea, and I think in the US as well, almost every card has that little chip in it now. These cards also have a little tiny microprocessor. To me, that doesn't sound like the right word, but I guess it is. They have a little microprocessor, a little chip in there, and each time a transaction is made, the user must enter a PIN number in the same way that PINs are used with ATMs. And again, I hardly ever have to do that. Normally, that is not required, or very rarely. Okay, so that's that. The one other thing, I noticed up here they just said guarantee, but here I put guarantees, or you'd have to have with, if they said with a payment guarantee, you don't need the S, but it's just with payment guarantees, makes more sense. Okay, at the bottom part here, number these phrases from part of a telephone conversation. And so imagine you are ordering something online. Okay, you've called up, you saw an ad online, on Facebook or on somewhere, and there's a phone number, and you are calling uh, to make an online purchase. Maybe you saw something on TV, Home Shopping Network, or maybe you're calling a hotel to make a reservation, and maybe the website isn't working, or you want to talk to them directly to make sure that you get the type of room you want, or to make sure that you get the pool side or the ocean view, or 2 rooms with a door between them for your family. So you're calling to make this purchase. And so here are the steps. And this is both sides of the conversation, okay? Except I feel like some things are missing here. I feel like in this conversation, it could have some more details added, and some more steps. I feel like this isn't quite thorough enough, that there are some things missing from this. So I want you, as your homework, to go through this dialogue, put them in the correct order, but then modify it. I think there are some steps missing here. And again, like I said, I think that some of these steps could be clarified, could be made a little more accurate. Okay, so that will be your homework. All right. And that is it for today. We will go over this on Thursday. So have a great day, and I will see you next time. Thank you.